This is where Gideon's concept stemmed from. He actually had a misconception of what an altar is for. And I think that this misunderstanding is shared by many, and it may even be perpetuated by the way we do things today. We make altar calls. And when people come for prayer, what do? They come to ask God to meet their needs. Isn't that right? They come. Sometimes our young people will come, help me pass this test. We'll come, Lord, I got this bill due. We want God to meet our needs. Now, mind you, I am not saying that this is wrong, but I am saying that this is not what the altar was originally for. May I take a little time just to do some instruction? Altars had two purposes. First of all, they were built for the purpose of offering sacrifices. And secondly, they were built for the purpose of dedication. When one built an altar, they were in fact dedicating themselves to the one for whom the altar was built. When one built an altar, one was paying homage. It was not a place where people went to get what they wanted or even what they needed. It was a place where they went to give their all. When Gideon built the altar known as Jehovah Shalom, it signified that he wanted what he wanted and what he needed. But God was saying to Gideon, I cannot be the supplier of your peace until you get rid of that other altar. Before I can become what you need me to be, you have to tear down that other thing. Before I can do what you want me to do, you got to make up your mind as to whom you're going to serve. I'm not going to take care of you, provide for you, bless you, keep you, help you, protect you, and then let you give your love and your devotion to somebody else. I'm too jealous. Let me take this a little bit further. If we look beyond the altar and the grove sitting upon the hill of Ra and see who they were dedicated to, we may get just a little more understanding. The altar was dedicated to Baal, which in Hebrew means Lord. The grove or the Asherah pole was dedicated to Asherah, which in Hebrew means happiness. As I considered this, it occurred to me that when Gideon's father and the other men of Ophrah built those places, it was as if they were saying that they had found another Lord and were seeking happiness outside of their relationship with the true and living God. While they professed to be the people of Yahweh, they had something else in their lives that they were bowing down to. And while they confessed that God was the joy of their lives, they were searching for happiness elsewhere. But God was saying in effect to Gideon, this is not going to work. Look at your neighbor and just tell your neighbor, this is not going to work. Also tell them you don't have to fasten your seatbelts because you ain't moving anyway. Forgive me for that one, y'all. God was saying this is not going to work. As a matter of fact, this is the root of the problem. This is why you are in the mess that you are in the first place. If you want me to move in your behalf, then you've got to do some moving yourself. You have got to move away from anything that will take your allegiance from me. You have got to move away from seeking happiness outside of me. And so God gave Gideon specific instructions as to what to do. He told Gideon to take one of his father's bulls, specifically the second one in the yoke. And I believe that this is significant. It is significant because of the age of that young bull. It was 7 years old. And that is exactly how long Israel had been in bondage to the Midianites. 7 years. This tells me that Israel's deliverance had been prepared from the very beginning of their troubles. And I just want somebody to know today, the solution to your problem has already been prepared. The deliverance for your situation has already been set. Your victory, your blessing, your miracle has already been arranged. I dare you to tell your neighbor, it's as good as done. Some of y'all ain't telling it. So let me tell all of you, it's as good as done. 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 And if you believe that, you ought to put your hands together and give God some praise. It's as good as done. I'm starting to feel this now. Somebody needs an it's as good as done word today. How many of you need that it's as good as done word? How many of you need to know that's God telling you it's as good as done? If that's you, I'm here to tell you that's God saying to you, it's as good as done. Somebody shout it with me. It's as good as done. God told Gideon to take that bullock and throw down the altar of Baal. When he was done with that, he was to cut down that pole dedicated to Asherah. After doing that, he was to build an altar to God in what the writer called the ordered place. And I like that. Every time I see those three words, the ordered place, it tells me that God has an order. It also tells me that Israel had gotten so far out of order that God had to point them back to what real order was. So he says, take that stuff out of here. I have an ordered place. I have an ordered plan. I have an ordered way, and I have an ordered blessing for those who will follow my orders. And finally, Gideon was told to kill that young bullock and offer it as a sacrifice on the altar using the wood of that Asherah pole to fuel the sacrifice. Now, I'm not going to comment on the commentary of the writer when he said that Gideon did what the Lord commanded by night because of his fear of his father and of the men of the city. I'm not going to comment on that commentary. What I am going to concentrate on is the fact that Gideon did what the Lord said. That Gideon did what the Lord said. See, some of us, we would concentrate on what the writer said, and sometimes, let me tell you, can I preach like